Welcome to our usual hovers. I'm Meeka Nomicon, and today I can play for the game Living with Ghosts, where we play as Blossom, who lives a rather solitary life on her family's farm, up until one Hallows Eve, where we receive a visit from somebody we never had the chance to say a proper goodbye to. So if you want to check out the opening performance next month, we'll keep a free seat for you. It'll be really fun, promise. Course I want to see it. I'll ask one of the guys if they'll take care of the critters for me, then I can make a trip to the city. Can't miss those baffled looks from the audience after all. Oh yeah, they're gonna wonder how we can change our costumes so fast. Come on, we gotta make sure we don't miss that carriage back. I'm coming. Take care, guys. Remember, it's the night of mischief. Course, and we'll be the ones causing the mischief. See you soon, sis. The house was generally quiet, but it only ever felt as such shortly after the twins had taken their leave. They had the habit of filling every moment with so much liveliness and fun that the absence of it was all the more noticeable. This never lasted long, however, as Blossom went on with her evening routine, and the silence was filled by her own thoughts. Truly, her life was an inexpugnable fortress of habits and chores. It was what kept her going, and she took pride in it. And still, she felt the weight of loneliness on her heart when she eventually lay down to sleep. It didn't keep her from dozing off, as solitude was a familiar bedside companion. You know, maybe we should consider getting a roommate, or a pet. Then again, since we're already part animal, I wonder what kind of pets they'd have in this universe. You know, that's quite soothing. I do like that. It does make me think, though, like a perfect siren's call, though. Something that would just lure you in to get murdered. It wasn't any blunt, sullen sound that woke up Blossom that night. No shrieking or bumping, no scraping or wailing. The sound that lured her from sleep was a soft, gentle humming. It came from outside, as if someone on the veranda was singing onto the night. Who could it be? And why did the melody sound so familiar? Once her drowsy mind made the first active effort to think, she shivered. Of course, she recognized the lullaby. She had heard it many times when she was a child, when she was playing between peonies, rubbing bay leaf between her fingers, or when she was comforted in strong, soft arms. She had heard it. Blossom rose, and she walked towards the door to the backyard with slow, soft steps. She had to investigate the sound. If her suspicion was right, she would later regret it if she didn't look. As she stepped onto the backyard, Blossom's breath caught in her throat. Mom? Sweetheart, want to sit with me for a bit? Blossom pinched herself in the hand, hard. It wasn't a dream. Sure enough, she was really here. Her mother was sitting in the garden chair, her favorite spot. The veranda was illuminated by a white glow, like pale fire, the bright flame of a heart. Whether through fate or rare coincidence, her spirit had slipped over onto the physical realm. There was a faint transparency to her form, like opal or frosted glass. Yet she looked healthy, and so alive, so present, just how Blossom remembered her from her childhood, before the illness began. Before... Come on, join me for a bit. Yeah. She approached, very carefully, as if any clumsy noise would cause this whole scene to pop like a bubble. Are you done with your homework? Yeah. She was done with homework. She had been done with homework for 5 years. Was she not aware that she looked different? That she was older? So, how are you? Good. You know I'm fine as long as things are peaceful around here. And it really is nice to be able to sit outside. It's getting a bit chilly though. That's just autumn, isn't it? The cool night air was biting at Blossom's ankles, with how she was only dressed in her pajamas, but she knew better than to leave and fetch a jacket. Oh, Mother doesn't remember she died, does she? This is reminding me of, the Necromancer game we played. Has the same vibe. True. How about we make an apple pie later? We have so many good ones in storage now, and they're best to eat when they're fresh. Sure. Blossom blinked with realization. Her mom didn't know what state she was in. To her, this was just like any regular day. How much did she remember? Where's your pa? Is he busy right now? Yeah, he is out doing another soil examination. Go figure. He really can't leave his dirt alone. And the twinsies? They're sleeping. Suits them. I really hope they're not always going to leave you all the tough work around here. That would hardly be fair. Blossom swallowed and fidgeted with her pajamas. None of the things she had said were a lie. Exactly. She could assume that her brothers were asleep at this hour of the night, but they were not here. They were out to act the hell out of the theatre hall in Pittsburgh every week, living their dream. And her father, well, he really couldn't leave his dirt alone. It was why he had left as well, because he can only examine the same patch of soil that many times before it gets to you. You know, I half expected, when you said he couldn't leave his dirt alone, that you'd just say he died as well or something, and that he was buried. No, but it is less morbid. The part of it's still alive. You know, I'm not sure if it'd be better or worse for us, the fact that the mother doesn't remember she's passed away. I mean, it's gotta be like a punch to the gut to the mother just to be continuing as she remembers life to be. Each letter he sent was filled with the joy to pursue his occupation out there, to be granted that chance. And Blossom was still here, the only one who was still in Leapwald. The only one who could witness this. Her mother had changed, it was true. The eyes that she had known to be a deep and comforting brown were now swirling vortexes of blue, with an almost vacant gaze. And yet, it was so unmistakably her. Like a familiar smell or the sight of dappled light underneath a tree. The resemblance to her living form was inescapable as a memory. How was Blossom supposed to keep her composure when her mind was racing so many things she wanted to say? Things that had been brewing in her mind for years. Speak. Come on, you can do it. Are you alright, dear? Yeah. You look as if there's something on your mind. You know you can tell me. You know, actually, I feel like this is worse for us. I mean, if Mother had remembered she died, right, maybe this conversation would be easier to have. Because then Mother would know why we're so upset by this. How easily she saw through her. Blossom had forgotten what it was like to have someone there who saw her so clearly and attentively, so inescapably. If only she was good of an actor as her brothers. It reminded her of warm spring days, when her mum was ironing out the creases in her soul, very lovingly, even carefully straightening out a crumpled collar. Why was she now hiding what was on her mind? Didn't she owe her honesty? Speak! It must be something bad if you don't want to tell me. Her mother's brow was creased with worry. Oh dear, is it something with that Salai boy? He can stay over if it's getting worse for him at home. It's not that. Blossom clutched onto her pants, enough for her knuckles to brighten. She had to talk. She had to. Her chest was going to tear apart if she didn't. Speak. I don't know which one's the best to say. Like, we could say nothing and maybe just enjoy the moment together, but then we're always going to have the same lingering regret. But regardless of which one else we say, we're gonna have to inform Mother that she died, right? I feel like this one might be what's weighing on us the most if we blame herself for Mother dying. I am sorry that I couldn't save you. I love you, Mum. She squeezed the words out of herself as if they'd be the last ones she could ever say. Her mother reached out a hand towards her and paused. She looked at her translucent palm, the slow realization making its way across her face. And then finally, acceptance of the unavoidable reality of herself. The veil had been lifted. Blossom couldn't hold herself together at the sight. It was painful, and it was relieving in its finality. Her mother rose, slapping non-existent dust from her spectral clothes, and approached. Why are you crying, love? Because I missed you. I missed you too, love. So much. And I'm sorry. It's alright. Blossom meant it, but it didn't sound very convincing. You didn't want any of it to happen. It's not your fault, none of that. I know, but I'm still sorry. I'm sorry that I had to leave, and I'm sorry that I'll have to leave again. You're sure that you can't stay? Her mother sighed deeply, and her next words were barely a whisper. I'm so sorry. Blossom's throat felt too tight to speak. She simply put her arms around her mother's glassy form, wishing that she could hold her in this world like this. I want to sit with you on the veranda tomorrow again. Talk about the birds. Make some lunch out of those pumpkins. I want to hold your hand when we go run errands in town. I don't want you to be alone. It's not fair. This was torture. How could she hold her now, yet have no power to keep her here? So utterly powerless. Gently, the spirit lifted her hand to her daughter's cheek, and Blossom leaned into the touch. She could see the damp, glistening leaves of ivy through her mother's chest. I can't hold on much longer. I'm slipping. She was straining from much more than just sadness now, the effort of her form being disagreement with this world. I love you so much, my baby, and I'm so proud of you. I love you too, Mum. Please be good. She interrupted herself with a wet chuckle. What am I saying? I know you'll be. You'll be amazing. You already are. Blossom squeezed her tightly, even as she felt the form become lighter in her arms. It was what she would have wanted to do those many years ago, to hold on to her, desperately, uselessly, to not be doomed to wait in front of a doctor's office. Eventually, her entire form had faded to mist. The light disappeared, and Blossom found herself alone, as if the whole experience had been a dream. It was exactly what she had always been afraid of, to be left alone in the dark. She sank towards the embrace of the earth and whispered words to the ground, hoping that they could reach to the other side. I love you, Mom. I love you. It spilled from her lips like a mantra. At least now, she was free to feel, to embrace the grief and the cold and the salty taste of tears. This was it. She would never see her mum again. Gone for good. She pressed her numb fingers into the grass which had been so lush during the summer, but was now hanging down flat like messy wet hair. There was so much she could have told her, so much that had been on her mind. But they had only ended up talking about normal everyday things, for the most part. Well, we did try to tell her the most important... I think we did tell her the most important thing, right? Like, the most important thing is that we loved her. She had told her mum how much she loved her. But did she also say it often enough back then? Did she make her feel loved every day? Blossom winced as if the thought itself was causing her physical pain. As much as she told herself that she could have somehow saved her mom back then, if she had been wiser, there was nothing else she could have done. And yet she made herself feel guilty, because the guilt was easier to bear than the truth. If there was nothing Blossom could have done to prevent it, then she may again not be able to save loved ones in the future. Was she truly powerless against the hand of fate? Would she be able to save them? I mean, most of the cases, we won't be able to do anything about it, like either through illness or accident. I'm afraid death is just the way of life. So maybe I have done my part to save others all along. Blossom's gaze travelled down to the garden path, to the spot underneath the apple tree. There, she had sat with Moth when he read her his poems for the first time, his hands trembling. He had kept glancing at her, probably waiting for her to burst out in mocking laughter, and she never did. And over there on the bench, she had bandaged her little brother's knee. He had scraped it on the pavement, and Blossom played I Spy with him until he stopped crying. These moments were important, and as the years went by, they had not become any less meaningful, but rather more so. They were moments of love. Someday, there may be disasters that she couldn't prevent, but it still mattered that the love was there. Because it was always about love. It was always about people. Realizing this with so much conviction soothed her somewhat, and her tears stopped flowing. She had stripped away guilt and fear, and what was left now was grief, and a passion that burned brightly in her heart. What was grief, if not a form of love? Suddenly, its shape and meaning looked so familiar, like a friend. The grief she had felt all those years ago, now transformed. She would be able to bear it. She would allow it to continue changing. There were still many people she cared about, right in this moment. She decided that she would get up the next morning and see them. Breathing in the air of the garden the one last time, Blossom headed back inside. Out from damp chill of the night, to where it was warm and dry and silent, without looking back. She heard each of her own footsteps so clearly, every creaking step on the wooden stairs while she returned to her bedroom. It was real, physical. She was still there, despite everything. As she dozed off to sleep, she decided that she would bake an apple pie on the next day. You know, I don't particularly care for fruit pies, but that does look pretty tasty. I don't want to eat it, but it does look good. I feel like it's better for Blossom that the mother returned by essentially just a twist of fate instead of necromancy. So I feel like in the necromancy game, there's too much temptation to keep bringing the loved one back, right? Because this does have the finality of it being just something that will never occur again. Well, that was tragically wholesome. There's just something about these spirit kind of games that I really like, whether it's Living with Ghosts or This Life Escapes Me. I think it's the sense of finality the games have, like the sense of closure you can get. Well, if you enjoyed that playthrough, I'd really appreciate you can like this video and subscribe to this channel. But other than that, you have a spooky day and I'll catch you next time, guys.